It's Tuesday on YourView. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Alaja, Nima, Akasha, Zibiri, how are you?
Fine and well rested.
Good.
People underestimate the power of sound sleep. But sound sleep for me is medicinal. The only thing on my mind now is the Janiki school thing we had. I've been thinking about it, wondering.
Yeah, someone is asking for follow-up. Yes, so I think the kids were reinstated to the school. Someone was asking about compensation and all that, but that didn't happen. But I think the kids were allowed to write the exams.
Not reinstated yet.
Well, the feedback I got was that they were. So maybe we have to clarify.
I think you mentioned it.
Yeah, somebody did. Yeah, we need to clarify. How are you doing, Tokwe?
I'm good. Grateful to God for life. My kids experienced Abuja for the first time.
Ah, nice.
Over the weekend. We came back last flight yesterday. So if the airlines are delayed, I would come and rant. I took Dana Airways going right on time. I took Arik coming back right on time. My husband said, "You're just so lucky." I said, "Well, I experienced
the luck.
It was right on time going, right on time coming back. Nice. And I really wish our aviation system operates like this 24/7 because Nigerians will feel more comfortable. But my son said, like, Abuja beats Lagos hands down. We know. I'm still looking for joint venture opportunities within Lagos, particularly Alausa, joint venture, Alausa, GRA, Ikeja. Reach out to me. I'm very interested in building something in partnership with someone who has a land there. Yeah, but that's where we are right now.
You're going somewhere today. You look like you're very corporate-ish.
Hey, I wore my casual dress. My husband said, "It's too casual, that today is Tuesday, and it's your first day on the show." I said, "Okay, let me put the jacket on top of it."
It's a bit twisted, I don't know. It's a bit twisted, back on.
Okay, let's arrange it.
No, the
I
other
don't know
way,
how
the
this
other
girl
side.
does it. Mariam does it so effortlessly.
Congratulations. How you doing?
I did not sleep.
What happened?
Oh, my jam packed up.
Hey, in this Lagos
In
heat.
the midst of this heat.
Jesus.
Wrongest time for generator to
I was waking up to take a bath in the middle of the night. I was tossing. I didn't have enough sleep. It just scattered my sleep system. You know, I don't play with my 8 hours, 7 to 8 hours, because my brain needs to be functioning properly. But we've called the engineer who will be fixing the gen. So hopefully, before I get home today, it would have been done. And I couldn't even check on my kids. I didn't want any form of complaint. I just snuck out of the house this morning to come to work, but it's gonna be good. Yeah.
Good.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Kids are eating up all my food. Like you come to the house, the snacks are finished. I'm like, it's a snack. It's not a meal. It's a snack. It means it lasts.
Silly finishes.
They grab it. I'm like, come on. It keeps going around. It's a snack. Please.
That's why you snack on it around
snack and just leave it and go. It's not a meal.
It's not a meal that you eat and leave.
So
but they are home.
Yeah,
and they're not doing much. They're resting. So
electricity bill I'm sure would go up because the air conditioners everywhere. The AC. I keep saying, why are 3 ACs on at the same time? What is going on?
Stay in one room.
Stay in one place.
Stay in one room.
Living room upstairs is on. Up there, come on, man.
That's the blessing.
The trip was their own fun. They will not see me again throughout this meeting. I say, but you have traveled.
Even there. So the girls are having plans and they're all hanging out, asking me to bring money for snacks. They want to go out. I mean, come on.
Wow.
I don't know. It doesn't
have
happen.
A full house like I had over the weekend because both of them are at home now. We're all home.
Yeah.
I was able to sleep, which means it's this separation that has been denying my sleep.
Are you serious?
The moment I had all of them under my watch,
yes.
knocked out.
Oh, motherhood.
All right, let's go on a short break now. When we come back, we go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're going to start with the nation. Many federal government agencies, departments to go in major rejig. Ways out of economic crisis by TUC. Supreme Court gets full complement of 21 justices. FEC approves over ₦1 trillion for Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road. Courts to rule on Kanu's bill application in March. Due process followed in Mambila hydropower project, says contractor. Okay, which story are we starting with?
So I have the dual carriageway. According to the Minister for Works, we have good news. It says that FEC has approved the sum of ₦1.07 trillion naira for the first phase of the construction of the coastal carriageway. So, and this Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway will start from the Lagos Ahmadu Bello Way along the coastal, Etiomi, along the coastal, both side of the water, all the way to
pending
Cross River. Yes, and it's been, yes. But this has been approved. So the first phase of 47.47 kilometers will take off, and it will be a dual carriageway consisting of 5 lanes on each side and a rail line in the middle.
Okay.
So yes, that
Lofty, ambitious.
Not just ambitious, but this has been overdue. This has
Yes, it's been in the plans since forever. We've seen coastal roads since.
But now that they've approved, FEC has approved the money. So this, financing was the issue. So they've decided that, the federal government should sponsor it. And they said, it also has 2 roads that lead up north, going from the Badagry-Sokoto route that leads through the Trans-Sahara route. And also they'll have the Ogoja one that goes to Cameroon as well. So it's just exciting for me. It's of course going to improve and encourage investment across that side. Yes.
Okay, let's take another story.
Yeah, so the Trade Union Congress, TUC, yesterday said it will not be part of a 2-day warning protest by the Nigerian Labour Congress over the mounting hardship and insecurity that's happening nationwide. TUC is the umbrella body of the senior public and private sectors in the country, and they explained that although they were not in support of the demonstration, which is going to be starting today, the president, that's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, needs to act decisively to end the pain triggered by some of the policies that they had taken. And they listed 15 ways that would end the economic hardship in Nigeria. One of the ways is the increased minimum wage and also ending the World Bank dictations on how we're going to be running our economy. I want to take a few of the ways that they had mentioned. So they suggested the determination of the real value of Naira, which is 580 to 650 to $1 at that rate, which will be determined by customs for products used in manufacturing or giving tax waivers to manufacturers. Then they also mentioned immediate deployment of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and National Financial Intelligence Unit officials to monitor accounts of all the bodies that get FAC allocation directly and probe the dollarization of the party primaries and electioneering. They went ahead to say that they have to end speculative trading in the foreign exchange market, patronage of Nigerian made in Nigerian goods, then strengthening the newly constituted economic management team, proper supervision of activities of the banks by the Central Bank of Nigeria, and a whole lot. So I think people should just get the details. But they went ahead to say that one of the reasons they are not joining the NLC is because the government had already started with the agreement they've had. They've started paying the extra 35,000 naira minimum wage, and they've started putting some things in place.
I read through that list.
They would go through,
Like, there's really nothing they're saying that is new. These are things we already know, what to do to review. But it's always good on paper.
Implementation.
The only part of
something new in that
I
list.
found outrageous was that they're saying import food in the minimum 2 weeks, in the interim in 2 weeks, massively to cushion this effect. But I don't think by importing would deal with
it. It won't be
anything.
any cheaper.
Let's just go straight and till the land and get the food out of it.
The Oronsaye report is the hottest story and is our hot topic, but just highlighting it in the newspaper review is the fact that 12 years after it was submitted, there's an implementation. The Oronsaye report is famed to help to streamline the agencies, ministry department and agencies to optimize the government and shed excess weight that, and the Buhari administration in 2021 tried to implement it, but they couldn't. They did some moves, but it finally wasn't implemented. However, the president, according to according to the papers, the president, in a bold move, which is the administration's template, has decided to implement this, scrapping many agencies, merging more agencies, and we'll give more details during Hot Topics later today.
Okay, let's move on now to the Punch. 12 years after Tinubu adopts Oronsaye report, merges agencies, police deploy anti-riot squad as NLC holds protest today. Ogun, Kogi, Taraba governors felicitate Punch at 50. CBN sells over $300 million to banks as Naira gains. Customs suspends rice sale after 7 die in stampede. And SANS least expectations as Supreme Court Justice rise to 21. Okay, which story?
We could start with the Nigerian police force. They said they've deployed anti-riot operatives in strategic locations ahead of today's nationwide protest, which was declared by the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, over the economic crunch in the country. So the force spokesman, Olumuyiwa Adejobi, said that policemen have been placed on red alert. And, you know, they said that they are going to carry out, they are warning the protesters and also people who are trying to hijack the protest not to even try it at all. And we know that the Trade Union Congress, that's the TUC, had said they were not joining this protest alongside 65 other civil society groups. But, you know, some persons have said that the protest is in line with human rights. And the only thing the police needs to do is to support the protest, to protect the protesters from the people who are likely going to be hijacking it. But to say that the protest shouldn't go on, that is not expected. So let's see how that pans out today and how the police is assisting to support.
So the CBN has said that in the last 3 weeks, they've ingested $300 million into the banks just to save the naira. So according to the Association of Corporate Treasurers of Nigeria, they made the disclosure in the advisory memo made available to the newspapers. So we assure you, you must have seen all the activities ongoing with the foreign exchange market. If you're not aware, CBN last week sold about $200 million to the banks below 1,500, that's about 1,450 to the dollar. Similarly, also CBN has 2 consecutive days sold forex to banks at rates under 1,450. So hopefully that should continually strengthen. For many of us yesterday got the news that naira strengthened a bit, came down to about 1,500 to the dollar. So we're hoping that more ingesting would help to help the naira going forward.
Should I take the customs story?
Let's see how much minutes we have. Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, so the Chief Superintendent of Customs and National Public Relations Officer for the Controller General of Customs, Abdullahi Maiwada, has announced the suspension of the sale of rice that they're doing following what happened on Monday. And the details just goes on to confirm that a pregnant woman, 6 others died due to this stampede. And they didn't disclose when the suspension will be lifted, but as it is now.
I took the story yesterday. Really, really sad. Let's go on a short break now. When we come back, we continue with our review. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still reviewing Punch. Who has a story or should we move on? Okay, moving on now to Daily Sun. FGOK's agencies merger and scrapping. Terrorism trial. Court fixes March 19th for ruling on Nnamdi Kanu's bail application. See yourselves as God's representatives on earth, CJN tells new Supreme Court justices. Hardship. Protests rock Lagos, Benin, Osun, and Plateau. Constitutional review. National Assembly to consider local government autonomy. Mayor for Abuja, others in 24 months. Nigeria can't work without Southeast, Shetima declares in Enugu. Your verbal inconsistencies embarrassing ex-minister chides Akpabio. And we must repair our economy to free people from poverty. 2 million candidates for UTME as registration ends. Okay, which story?
Okay, the CJ spoke with the newly sworn-in Supreme Court justices. Now they have a full complement of 21 justices with these 11 sworn-in justices. And while he was speaking to them, he warned them to brace up to receive verbal assaults from dissatisfied litigants. He said, you must not therefore allow your ambition or any extraneous considerations to cloud your sense of judgment. Your interactions with people of unenviable inclinations and pedigree, if any, must be altered forthwith. He said, let your conscience guide and filter every thought that traverses your mind from this moment. I do not doubt that you may have at one time or the other been confronted with some forms of criticism or verbal assaults by litigants who have lost their cases. I want to assure you that more of such will come your way, especially as you assume duties in the final court of the land, where appellants' expectations are often very high and infectious. I think the Chief Justice has not forgotten quickly what happened during the presidential judgments of the presidential elections, the final judgments, and how the lashing and all of that, because he's always referred to, you know, litigants and the verbal assaults that comes. But he warned them, he also asked them to see themselves that, you know, he said, the only deity you can fear is the Almighty God. Once your judgment aligns with what God expects from you, and is also by the Constitution, you should consider yourself the happiest and freest person on earth. So, I advise them.
All right, so the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, has said the Parliament would emphasize inclusivity, transparency, as well as collaboration in the constitutional review. We've been talking about this thing for years.
Forever.
But hopefully now they are taking it serious. Now that the Oronsaye report was implemented, hopefully this time around they are working according to the Speaker, said that the Parliament is working closely with the executive arm of government and all the various levels to ensure that everybody is carried along. More importantly, the process will be deeply rooted in engaging Nigerian people at all levels, even Nigerians in diaspora, religious institutions, pressure groups, and trade unions and ethno-religious organizations will all be invited to participate in this review. The intent to harness the inputs of all Nigerians of all levels across. And so it's important to reiterate that we are willing to accommodate more proposals to enhance our constitution and strengthen our democracy. In addition, we are with executive sponsors. So there is a constitutional review going on, hopefully to address issue of restructuring, state policing, allocation, the resource allocations,
yes.
all sorts of things that Nigeria is clamoring for. So when we see,
any
those
requirement
things,
for the Oronsaye's report should also be quickly worked on.
So this is what we call posture, governmental posture. When you say your posture is moving forward, Nigerians will realign and, you know...
even if it is a painful one.
Yes.
Let's talk about you, House of Rep to Senate. The former Minister for Land, Housing, Urban Development, Chief Nduse SCN, has accused the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, to reduce his loquaciousness.
It wouldn't
said that what he's saying...
the Senate President from left, right.
Yes,
even,
what he's saying is putting the verbal inconsistencies is embarrassing the Senate, that he's occupying such a high position that he should not be saying things that are not verified. Because he mentioned that there was a 30 billion paid to all governors.
He has apologized.
It was a mistake.
Now.
He also mentioned in his own former state, where he was the governor, that all the local governments are oil producing, and so all of them should be getting funding, which he did not implement. So he's been saying some things that is watering the power of the position he represents, that he should calm down, listen more. Coming from an elder statesman, he said, listen more and talk only on verified facts.
He has also apologized.
One too many.
It was a slip of the...
Senate President.
Oh, he has bed. But now they've deflated his baby.
So I have a story. Nigeria's Vice President Alhaji Kashim Shettima has said that the Southeast remains a critical aspect of Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, and that the hope of the nation rests on Ndi-Igbo. And he described the region as a key component of Nigeria, noting that the zone works. If the zone works, Nigeria will work. So he spoke at the launch of the Light Up Nigeria program in Southeast by the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, NDPHC, in Enugu. That happened yesterday. And according to him, he said the region holds the key to every indices of development in Nigeria. He said, I am pleased to witness the second launch of the strategic collaboration between the Niger Delta Power Holding Company and its invaluable customers. We are gathered here to embark on a strategic journey for the light of Nigeria in the southeastern states. This marks the renewal of hope for investors and industrialists. This is not a ribbon-cutting charade. This is calculated endeavor to re-engineer our economy. And they said that the southeast is the industrial powerhouse, and its economic fortunes remain a critical aspect of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. The Southeast has over 30 million people. If the Southeast works, Nigeria will work. And it says some people have described the Southeast as people who are the Nigerian Jews, or the Nigerian version of Jews. And they are geographically mobile, economically enterprising, educationally ambitious. They have the hope of the nation right in our midst, and we must harness all of this to take Nigeria forward.
I love the language. It's coming. I like when the government is making it obvious that we're not being partial to any region and everybody.
And I like to even at the
together.
news of the, is it Abia State that 9 of their 17 local governments will now have power based on 20, as it's been 20 years coming, but I'm happy that it's been implemented so far. So that's what we're trying, this kind of news we're trying to get. All governors, all hands on deck to ensure you can generate power
For your
their
people.
states.
Yeah.
Moving on now to Vanguard. How many minutes we have? Okay, a few more minutes. Hardship ahead NLC rally, protests rock Edo, Lagos and Osun. TUC advises FG to allow importation of food items. Edo Guba, Idahosa's men petition Ganduje wants Uzodima's report upheld. Nigeria will work if Southeast works optimally, says Shetima. Tinubu reduces 263 MDAs to 161 as FEC adopts Oronsaye's report. Political risk, regulatory concerns threaten infrastructure funds. We're taking most of that story. Which one?
Yes, we have.
We move on.
The political risk. So infrastructure, I was looking out for when I see infrastructure, I know it's within my industry. So I was concerned, but it wasn't really about the infrastructure. There's an infrastructural deficit that we have, and the expectation was that the pension fund will be used. There's a part of the pension fund which is an infrastructure asset under management fund. Even though that particular fund had increased, it's not been well implemented. And they said the reason it's not been well implemented is because of political risk and regulatory inconsistencies have threatened the ability for this fund, which is available, to be deployed for the use of bridging infrastructural gaps. So we do have a lot of regulatory gaps. We also have political risk, and the fund is available. It means that if we address those two issues, we will have funds available, released for infrastructure, and definitely Nigeria will benefit from having infrastructure. From the roads we want to do, that coastal road, this pension fund can fund that road without us having to borrow money external at dollar ridiculous rates. So I think we should listen to the breakdown of this report and implement the regulatory threats that are fighting against the implementation of these funds that are available for us.
Okay, the Nigerian Tribune, let's find a story. Oronsaye report, we've talked about that. Joint military police team rescue 16 kidnapped victims in Kogi. CGN swears in 11 new Supreme Court justices. CSOs protest over high cost of living in Lagos and Edo. We oppose call on Yoruba not to protest against Tinubu's IMF policies, says Afenifere. 30 billion to governors. Akpabio recants and apologizes. FEC okays 1 trillion naira for phase 1 Lagos Port Harcourt Calabar Coastal Road. Okay.
So the Kogi State Joint Police and Military Team have rescued 16 kidnapped victims of the state. According to the state's police public relations officer, William Aya, he said that 11 passengers were kidnapped on the Peace Mass Transit and 5 others were on a Sienna bus, and they were all rescued when the police swung into action and rescued them from the bush on Earth. And he's also asking that, residents continue to partner with him. But the twist for me was that they are still, on the search of the suspect. Efforts are ongoing to apprehend the suspect. I thought they swung into action and rescued the victim, and, I expected that some of the suspects would have been picked up.
Okay. Let me just state the Senate President's his statement so that we know that he apologized. He was just trying to say that he can never undermine the efforts of the subnationals as the governors. He says that the President of the Senate is not oblivious to the fact that state governments are functional partners in all efforts of the current administration and are also valuable stakeholders in the various legislative engagements. The President of the Senate has always demonstrated commitment to team building and shall not do less in circumstances. He therefore urges the subnational government not to be distracted by any misunderstanding of the context and true meaning of the statement. In other words, Emma Binu. On that note, that is all we can take on this review. When we come back, move on to our next segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Welcome back. Moving on now to our next segment. So, so today on the hot topic for today.
What's going on? What? Should we
What's-
leave the studio?
What's happening? Oh my goodness.
Are we safe? Should we leave? Oh my God.
Oh my goodness, that was so scary. What was that?
What was that?
It sounded like the Akala bird.
Oh my
The Akala
Lord.
bird. I think it really sounded like the Akala bird from the Anikulapo movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If we felt this way in the studio, I wonder how other people will feel.
Oh my Lord. Hey, Akala bird is in town.
Okay.
And on the 1st of March, we'll get to see the full experience when we watch Anikulapo, The Rise of the Spectre.
Are you excited?
Netflix.
Yes.
Yes, I'm excited.
Are you excited?
Yes, I'm excited. I can't
So
wait.
we can't wait to go and watch Akala movie.
Yes,
March.
Anikulapo.
1st of March.
1st of March.
On
Can't wait.
Netflix.
On Netflix. Can't wait. See you there. Let's go on a short break. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So, in 2012, a certain Steve Oronsaye reported on public sector reforms, and he revealed that there are 541 statutory and non-statutory federal government parastatals, commissions, and agencies. However, President Tinubu recently, I think yesterday, directed full implementation of the Oronsaye report to cut the size of government. He has approved some reforms, meaning numerous agencies will be eliminated and others will be merged, all to restructure and cut cost of governance. Now, many have argued that this is not the first time any government or president is saying they're going to re-implement. For whatever reason, they kept setting up committees to review, to bring a white paper. We've been hearing that for years. But this president seems to have taken the bull by the horn and gone straight into implementation. Now, joining us on the show is a fiscal transparency advocate and a firm believer in the power of open data. He's an entrepreneur and open data analyst. Welcome with us, Mr. Oluseun Onigbende. Good to have you on our show. I can't hear you. I think it's...
I say it's a pleasure being here once again. Thank you very, very much.
Good, good, good. Yes, we can hear you. So, I mean, for those of us who have a bit of knowledge of what's going on, many Nigerians are excited. Others are confused. They're just wondering, sorry?
Is he excited?
So many Nigerians are excited about the implementation of the report. Others are confused. They don't even know what it means. So we'd like you to help us to break it down so that the average Nigerian can understand. One of the things we do on this show is to break things down to the nucleus so that people have a better and crystal understanding of governmental issues. So let's start with, what does it really mean, this Oronsaye report?
Yeah, thank you so much. And so this Oronsaye report has been a household name. It's been there since 2012. It was a committee set up under the President Jonathan's administration to look at streamlining government agencies. At the time, there were around 547 government agencies, and they were asked to look into it.
Yeah.
I mean, that number has risen to almost 1,000 because new agencies, new entities have been created over the years. And it was just simply to look at duplication, to look at also if certain agencies need to stay. Also to look at even if certain agencies need governing boards, because those are the things that also have significant implications on public cost. A lot, even the Gridlock Jonathan administration reviewed at a white paper, but did not do it. There have been 5 reviews of the Oronsaye report in my own understanding. Once, twice under Goodluck Jonathan, and twice even President Muhammadu Buhari also looked at it, and there was a last-minute check again last year around the Oronsaye report that produced another white paper that was not made public. So when the news filtered in yesterday that the president asked that the Oronsaye report be implemented, I mean, the law jumped up. And why? Because some things just don't make sense. And if you look at the Nigerian budgeting structure, you find a whole lot of agencies that you can't understand. We have a National Boundary Commission, and we have a Borders Community Development Agency. We have a National Secondary School Commission when most of the secondary school functions or capabilities are within the state government purview. We have like the institution for trypanosomiasis and something like that. We still have the veterinary. So things needed to be subsumed, needed to be changed to departments under ministries. Some needed just to be scrapped entirely. And I think I looked at the key agencies that the government has brought forward. It seems interesting. It seems exciting in some way. It looks like they are facing this out. Because it looks like they have not touched the hard hitters that the Oronsaye report mentioned. The Oronsaye report was very bold in some extent. Like, he asked that the EFCC and the ICPC and the Code of Conduct Bureau should be merged to the National Anti-Corruption Commission. So I've never seen a recommendation that goes as bold as that. So but at least the ones that they have put forward, that sounds much more reasonable. Even though most of them are small agencies, when you look at terms of cost savings, they might not be that significant. But if you look at it, the rationale or just the basic thing, it looks like this is a good step forward in terms of rationalizing government costs.
Okay.
So I felt that you spoke my mind. There's an initial excitement. I had initial excitement about it, but it was very short-lived because we were not doing a full implementation as of the statement didn't say they were going to be implementing the entirety of what he recommended. So I wanted to find out from you, were you excited when you saw this information? And do you think it would really cut down our costs per se? Because I foresee that they will still retain most of the staff, just move them into another department.
I don't think cost. There are two ways that I see cost. One is the symbolic part of cutting costs, and one, the substance of cutting costs. And a lot of people would say reduce ministers. Yes, a lot of people would say let us definitely reduce cost of travels, which are very important. But when you look at the entire overheads of government, it's still less than, it's around 400 billion. I mean, you're talking about a budget of around 27 trillion naira. So your overhead is around 500 billion naira. So even if you cut that, that's not where your biggest changes are going to happen. My own view, the biggest changes that we're going to do in cutting cost of governance is procurement reform. As long as we implement the same way we do it, which few organizations, few entities collude with civil servants to define what public procurement will cost, when we can figure out how much does it cost in the public markets and how much should government pay for it, when we can't reconcile that properly. As long as those things exist, we will keep having a lot of fiscal imbalance, a lot of currency imbalance, currency exchange rate imbalance too, because a whole lot of this money gets changed into dollars at the end of the day. So it's something that the government needs to look at. For me, if we want to really cut costs, let's go and look at budget efficiency and procurement reform. That's number one. But it's also important that we do some symbolic things so that we can gather perception and we can also build solidarity with Nigerians. I mean, this is not the easiest of times for Nigerians. Like I mentioned, if you look at some of these agencies, they are not significant. The reality is that Nigeria's spending is not that big. If you look at us, we're a country of 200 million people. Federal government at that level is spending 27 trillion naira. In fact, we are even devaluing the currency, so it even makes the size of the budget, if you put it in dollar, absolutely worse. So, in my own view, we need to spend more, but spend much more efficiently. So, if we are looking at some of these agencies, I mean, if we save 10 billion naira, we'll be trying. At the end of the day, like I said, it's symbolic because some of the things there are it's just reasonable. For example, we have an agency called National Agricultural Development Agency, NADLA, and it's under the presidency. I'm wondering, if you have an Agricultural Lands Development Agency and you put it under the presidency, why? It should be under the Ministry of Agriculture.
All right, let me get a few more questions in for you.
Yes. So 2 agencies that I did not see there is the Pilgrims Commission, so the National Hajj Commission and the Christian Pilgrimage Commission. These have been criticized commissions that, people do not think government should continue with. Also, it seems like the fear of NLC is the beginning of wisdom. It is said that nobody will be losing their jobs because of this collapse of agencies. So are we really efficiently doing this, or,
So, I mean, if we want to efficiently do, let me explain something a little bit. So, the biggest chunk of Nigeria's personnel cost, around 74% of it, is just within 5 ministries, which is education, health, defense, the police, and also other internal security, which is like immigrations, customs, and prisons, and the rest. So if you're not tampering with those ones, to be honest with you, you might not be able to shrink this personnel size in a significant way. That's something we also first have to understand. It doesn't just mean that there are a whole lot of waste on the other 26%, in terms of all these small agencies, as one might call them, in terms of personnel cost. And things like the Pilgrimage Commission, it's huge that, government takes a step back from that. The personnel cost for those agencies might be less than 5 billion naira, but it's part of something. And you also said about perception that some things, in terms of principle, should not exist. What's the government business with pilgrimage? If you want to go on pilgrimage as an attestation of your faith or a completion of your faith, you should just do that as your own personal pilgrimage. Nigeria does not have the resources, to put into things like that. So I agree, but there's also the political economy of things. Because I've seen people say the political consequences of that for politicians is greater than the economic cost when you look at it in that sense. But I think in the time of austerity that we have right now, these are the things that should just significantly go. Because it helps in the perception that government is thinking that every single kobo, every single cent, every single naira matters to them.
Yeah, so I would like to hear your thoughts on what you think informed the president to, give this this sort of directive so that the Oronsaye report will be implemented. However, though not, they don't want it to be implemented completely. I would like to hear what you think about the move for that, and also why we're not looking at implementing the majority of what was recommended in that report, because this is more like just one aspect of the report that we are focusing on.
I think we will pay attention. It's better that it is faced this way. I also understand, because to scrap some agencies or to merge them, you need to go through a long legislative process. Okay. Let's forget that some of these things are backed by hacks, and they have governing boards. Even for cessation, there are a lot of rules and processes that guide them. So I think they have taken the ones that the low-hanging fruits and the quick wins that they can find in some sort of way. So I think that's what they have done. So we will have to wait, maybe after they have been able to deliver this, maybe in 6 months or 6 weeks, because there will still be pushback. Let's not lie to ourselves. Even though the president has spoken about this, certain interests will go to the National Assembly, certain interests will move around and say, why do we need to do this? For example, I asked, when we're looking at the budget, there was a Border Communities Development Agency, and they had a whole lot of projects. And I was asking myself, why do we have to execute projects through a Border Communities Development Agency? It should be a policy institution. If you want to do a road in a border community, do it through the Ministry of Works. If you want to build a school, they do it through the Ministry of Education. But a lot of things that you see in the budget has also become a procurement dispensing opportunity. So I think that's one way I see that cost will be significantly managed. Why the president is doing this, he needs to rebuild his political capital. That's where I see this.
Exactly, that was where I was going to. Because I was going to talk about that the buying the goodwill. Because some people, when we look at this decision, we think, okay, there are hard decisions and there are softer decisions to buy back trust, buy back perception, to change thinking of Nigerians, to say, okay, this government is working. Maybe they are doing some things that others have found difficult. They've been bold, brave enough to take some decisions that others haven't been able to. So do you think this is just one of those things to buy goodwill of the people?
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. It's one of the good things to buy the goodwill. I mean, the government wants to do this, but it has not gone all the way. So, like I said, that's taken the lower hanging fruit, which is important, and which we will see where this will go along the way, because at the end of the day, we'll do the measurement. When we look at some of these agencies, we're looking at the data already in budget. How much do these agencies save the government? Let's also not forget, see if they're not sacking anybody. So maybe it's only the overheads that they might be to some extent reducing. The capital item attached to some of these agencies are already in the budget. So except the government decides not to implement them. So in some sort of way, it just makes rational sense to do this. Some things in terms of how we put them in structure is not supposed to be. But it's up for the government to buy back some trust, because Nigerians require that at this moment.
Yeah.
So the government is beyond, the executive. We still have this democracy is not cheap. We still have these lawmakers to go back to. Right now, you were talking earlier, you were saying some people will go to the National Assembly, some people will, try to resist this, cost-cutting measure. How do we bring in the National Assembly, considering that they are doing some amendments with the Constitution right now?
To bring in the National Assembly, it has to be some, back and lobbying from the executive, and it's also, and I said, I don't think there's a lot of political capital to be expended here, because because if Oronsaye said merge ICPC and EFCC, and this government chooses to do that, I think that's one that would raise a lot of eyebrows. Most of these agencies, in some certain times, are not that small. And I see, some of them are even being merged, maybe in those nomenclature, they will still put maybe their names on the inside. So I think, to some extent, the government would have to speak to since the APC is the president and the leadership of the National Assembly, it should be much more easier than I think. And also the National Assembly has to be helpful here. Nigerians need something to hold on to in terms of government also being sensitive to their plight. So I don't think the law of political capital to be expanded here by executive, because some of the things, there will be a bit of pushback no matter what we think. So I don't think everything that has been said will go through. Sometimes in another few weeks, certain things will be backtracked in some sort of way. Okay. And some things are also even faulty. So like, for example, the NACA, which is the National Action for Control of HIV/AIDS, for AIDS, the National Agency for Control of AIDS, it's been merged with NCDC. I don't think that should have happened. That's a public health issue, and I think the HIV/AIDS needs its own agency specifically tied to that. So if we bring it back to be a unit under the Ministry of Health, I think that's even much more appropriate than lumping it with a public health policy and surveillance agency. So in some sort of way, I think some reflection will also still happen. But like I said, we have not done the hard things. So maybe the political capital here is not still huge as we think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that there will still be a few wins. I know that you said that the overhead cost isn't going to change much because nobody is being fired. But, if it's no longer an agency, if it's now merged, they no longer have heads. And usually the heads attract more in terms of payroll. So it's no longer, and then the heads no longer approve or have a budget. It is now subject to the ministry they've been merged with. Do you foresee procurement shrinkage if we are merging, if we continue with this merge that will be substantial as opposed to the overhead in terms of salary?
There has to be that procurement shrinkage. Just if you look at one of the mistakes of the current president, for me, is the 2024 budget. I remember that he left Lagos on January 1 and immediately landed in Abuja that same day or second. He signed the budget. There was no pushback to the legislature. So by the time you analyze that budget properly, there were too many items that were incited by the legislature that I feel is not the best interest of Nigerians. A whole lot of people are just looking after themselves or looking after their own political mileage. So I think a whole lot of procurement reform, which is where I'm looking up to the Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale, to look into the budget and to look at those items. What am I going to prioritize? Because this is the same thing the last government did. Put everything in the budget, spend all the money, the ones that were reasonable, the ones that were reasonable, borrowed for it, printed for it, These are all sorts, and at the same way, it looks like too much effort, but the impact is not significant. So I think even if some of those procurement don't happen, it's for Nigerians' gain, because a whole lot of the federal government of Nigeria is not focused. When we hear things like the Lagos-Calabar road, those are the things the federal government of Nigeria should focus on. When we hear like vitalization of tertiary institutions, that's what we should focus on. Not building 5 million naira solar panel borehole, not building 2 million naira street lights. Those are the things, and those are where you now see a lot of them being inserted in the budget by the National Assembly. So through some of these agencies. So if this is also time to get a grip on what exactly are these agencies supposed to do. So if it's time to save cost on those sides, it's a welcome situation, because I look at the 2024 budget and I feel like there's a whole lot of error and there's a lot of mistakes in that regard.
All right, let me go on a short break. When we come back, we continue this conversation and take a few calls. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have our guest with us, Mr. Oluseun Onigbinde. You had a question for him.
Yes, sir. So it's been said that if this is implemented, we'll be saving about 241 billion. And I would like to know if we have a proper data and documentation of everything we're spending on the ministries, departments, and agencies, if it's documented, so that by the time these measures happen, we can now, separate and see what we're actually saving and gaining. Do we have that proper documentation of all the expenses so far on the ministries and agencies?
Well, we will check a budget, but I don't think we're saving as much as that. Because let me be honest, unless the government is open to say maybe personnel within these agencies and that are redundant, they are going to maybe let them go, or maybe to say they will not run as definitely not run as full offices. So their overhead costs would be cut in some sort of way. That's a big chunk. Maybe senior personnel too, especially like a permanent secretary in an agency like that. Maybe the boards that run agencies like that. Some of them also would not. But we know that the board is not a cost guzzling environment, because you have maybe 2 or 3 board meetings. How much is that supposed to cost in reality? But whatever we're saving at this point, I think we should take it. But you don't want to save all that money and go and lose it in the procurement side, or you will lose more. So the cost-cutting mechanism has to be overarching. It has to go out in the entire chain of government. Now things are properly done. And I think what needs to be also has to be much more bolder than this. There are some agencies that do not need governing boards. And I think Oronsaye mentioned the teaching hospitals. The teaching hospitals under the Ministry of Health. Why create governing boards over again? It's not as if we are even changing anything. The governing boards are changing anything. So they could also just be directly responsible to the Ministry of Health, to the line Ministry of Health, or maybe a single governing board for all of them, to just be able to understand their issues and to be able to lead that with government. So in some sort of way, we might say, but I don't think with the kind of agencies that we have chosen, I don't think that there is significant saving at that level in some way, because some of these agencies are not highly funded as we think they are. Yeah.
What role do you think technology can play, especially in this issue of procurement? Because many people have tried to simplify systems. Even in Lagos, there was the president, while as former governor, introduced Oracle to help to, remove ghost workers here and there. How much of this technology are we infusing? Because, as you said, procurement is a major issue. That's probably where talking about cost of governance. That's the real issue of cost of governance, not merging these MDAs. How do we use technology to help us reduce cost of governance?
Technology is good, but culture is the most important thing.
Thank you.
If you don't fix the culture, you buy new technology, it won't change anything. That's just the truth. Technology is a means. Because look at Lagos State, for example. There were some revelations recently when the procurement data of Lagos State was made public, and we saw how people were so shocked about some certain items. Maybe they felt that this was improper, this was unnecessary, and that's because Lagos State is open to some extent on its procurement data. This is the same thing if you go through the 36 states of the country, this is what you find. Yes. Now, if you now dive into the federal government procurement data, which is also not fully open as it should be, you would be significantly shocked. So in my own view, this is where the government needs to sit in and say, because in the Obasanjo administration, prior to the Bureau of Public Procurement, which I think is an institution that is broken already, they had a price intelligence unit, or what they call a due process unit, which was headed by Mrs. Obieze-Kwesili. So there was a framework to even say when you put anything in the budget, or before you put anything in the budget, there's an agency that appraises it to ensure that what you're putting in the budget is actually the real amount. You don't want to buy something of 10 million naira, then you put 25 million naira in the budget. Already, you have shortchanged the country. Because by that time, the project is signed off for 25 million. You have already received the legal backing, legal instrument that to some extent you can procure that item for 25 million naira. That's just the truth. So now you can now go and stuff some small hands in DPP and the ministries, and at the end of the day, something that should cost the country 10 million naira or 25 million naira. You deny them own resources to do other things. I was reading fake report yesterday, and a lot of roads need to be reevaluated because they were not completed on time, and now we're going to spend more than we even initially planned for such roads to build them. Because definitely, if a road is supposed to cost 3 years and you do it in 6 years, the inflation and the pricing is increasing on a continuous basis. So those are the kind of issues, and the contractor would not be able to continue. He or she will abandon the road. So those are the issues that the government needs to sit up and say, what is our priority? What are we going to focus on? And if these are our priority, how are we going to get in the most efficient manner? If that is not happening at a very wide scale, I don't think we are cutting costs as we should. And also the FEC is not, look at even the procurement laws. In the procurement law, the Federal Executive Council is not supposed to do anything with public procurement. There's a committee or a council that's supposed to have been constituted for that reason. And that council was never inaugurated by even those that signed the document into law. So the federal government has to also look into the procurement process and make sure that there's actual value for money, and also ensure that the budgeting process is right. But even though we don't do that, we have not cut costs as we should.
Yeah. Okay, so there's one interesting, maybe it's my mischievous part. Why does this not affect the oil sector? We still have the DPR standing, even though it has 2 departments. We have the petroleum pricing, all of those institutes that should be departments under the NNPC standing. Is it that the NNPC itself have been very productive?
You want to enter the honestness. That's the hard one. You want to go in there because, let's be honest, NNPC is a private company. That's something we have to understand, because we passed the Petroleum Industry Act and we say they are now NNPCL. So they are like a limited company, even though their entire shares are owned by the government currently. And I think that's the problem with that agency. Or if as your company, if I put it properly, NNPCL as it is now cannot be a private company, because it is still, the way it is set up is still grossly inefficient. Nobody's going to put their money into that entity if they don't share it with. If you look at even the 2022 audited reports that they brought out, still a whole lot of cost at the operational headquarters. There's so much spending on that is some extent unreasonable. There's a whole lot of lawsuit-bearing entities like the refineries, the NNPC is still carrying. There's always still loss on the petroleum subsidy regime that NNPC still bears on the federal government, so on behalf of the federal government. So in my own view, the government wants to let go of NNPC, but still sees NNPC somehow to be as its only fallback option on some certain issues. So it cannot work that way. Some agencies like, because you had DPR, and you had PPRA, and now you have a different, like a cluster of alphabet of names. I can't even, because it's no longer called DPR, it's AUPRC or something like that. So it's also for government to look into that, and I agree with you. We have one that is handling upstream, one that is handling midstream, one that is handling downstream, and 3 of them are government agencies, and we did not even change anything significant about them. We did not rationalize the personnel. Imagine that a single NNPC staff payment is more like hiring like 25 civil servants, in some certain line ministries. And so we've not rationalized that at all. And our cost of production for those reasons are significantly high. So President Tinubu, if he really wants to go all the long way, has a whole lot of work to do. And I think even if he doesn't enjoy the benefit, posterity will thank him for it. But we need to get a much more leaner government and much more effective.
Yeah. So there was something Mariam mentioned about technology, and you said culture, which we agree is very important, but there are ways with which transparency via technology can help mitigate the over-bloated procurement process where we're buying things for far higher than what is actually worth in the market. And so how can we use technology to make it a transparent process? Not that we're hearing of it after the procurement has done, but how do you think they can do it that maybe concurrently as every process is being carried out, technology would make it open to everybody to do it? What do you think the government can do?
Yeah, so one is, I'm not saying technology will not be right, but we have to put the culture first in front. So the president or a governor has to say, I want to be extremely efficient in how public resources are spent. That's number one. I want to be highly efficient about that. For even people like entities like in the US, you see that the reconciliation of National Assembly members, the overheads that for the House of Reps, is public. You can see how much a senator or a House of Reps spent, So we need to do with more technology and more transparency, as you said, so that people can criticize and can ask questions. I expect that based on the feedback that Lagos State got in the last time, they will think inward and understand that we need to do things much more properly, especially if we are a state that's highly dependent on taxes, on payee taxes. So it has to happen. So that, for me, it's number one. The government needs to sit up and be honest that we have to use technology to do more transparency and to streamline processes. If we are buying Prado Jeeps, how much does Ministry A buy it? How much does Ministry B buy it? And if they are buying from 2 different vendors, the prices should be the same? And what is the standard? Someone is buying full option. Someone is buying extended option. Those are the kind of questions you want to put on the table, because all of that, it saves government a little bit here, a little bit there, that you can channel to other productive places.
Right.
So that's some of the things we need to do. Technology can allow them to streamline prices. It can improve the visibility to the citizens to know how public resources are spent. And also, it will help procure better. Yeah.
Let's talk about the other parts of the report, because there are issues of restructuring. Some are already talking about parliamentary system of government that we should move to help to further reduce cost of governance. What's your take on that?
Restructuring is important, but that's beyond cost of governance. Restructuring is about even exciting the economy, getting this economy to work as it should work. Because Nigeria is a concept, is an aggregation of states, but that's how it's supposed to be. But unfortunately, the federal government has an overbearing weight, just because of things that the federal government can do that states cannot do. And I think states that are really honest and figure out a way around it. A lot of times, let's not also not be honest, a lot of states are too lazy or unimaginative. Take the issue of power. Look at what was done yesterday in Apapa. The state government had some equity in that entity, It might even be the land that they gave them. It might be some support that they gave them. So that may be accounted for there. So even if you don't, they say you cannot generate, distribute, and transmit power. But if you invest in what stops you from investing in a private-public project and you PPP and you work together with them? Even the solid minerals, a lot of state governments are now doing PPP with private agencies to harvest solid mineral. I think it's only oil. Even oil, there's no reason why a Bayelsa, a Delta, a Rivers cannot own an oil block and also producing 100,000 barrels per day. So if state governments want to be imaginative, they can do that. But we also could ease the environment for them with restructuring. I agree on that. Okay. But I'm the kind of person that believes that a lot of things in Nigeria has become, a talking point just because of ability. Some sort of way out. We're not restructuring. We're not.
Let me take this call from my Jiboye. Thank you for calling. You're live.
Yeah. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you? Good morning. How are you doing?
Very well.
Well done. Well, I just want to make a comment concerning this.
Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you all? Yeah. You see, there's this saying that charity begins at home. When we are rationalizing ministry, parastatals, especially parastatals, can we look at the cost of governance, even in the ministry itself? I think that should be checked. Like I said earlier on, charity, when you want to remove the log in somebody's eyes, you should also check the speck in somebody that you should also check the log in your own eye and remove the speck. Let federal government remove the log in their own eyes before removing the parastatal's eye. Thank you. God bless you.
I would have sworn that
it's not a speck.
The number of ministers we have,
yes,
I'm sure that's what it's talking
I
about.
know, but that's not a speck. That's also another log. So let's talk a bit about the pushback that we expect this administration to have because of this adoption of the Oronsaye report. Will it get to a point where the president may be able to use an executive order to insist on some things, or as the pushbacks are coming and maybe the legislators are saying no to some things, are we going to sort of leave them be because of the way the constitution is wired and the fact that we're operating a democracy, or the government at some point can give an executive order and say, this we must do?
Yeah, it depends on the constitution of that commission, because not every commission has an act, or an agency has an act backing them. So if there's an act, because that's where the first pushback is. If you want to repeal like the EFCC now, it's an act backing the EFCC. And by the time you also now look at the complexity of its function and compare that with ICPC, both of them should have existed separately in the first instance. I know the rationale, sounds a little bit different. Some were supposed to go into private sector investigation, some were supposed to look at public sector, but over the lines, those lines have become very, very, very blurred. I think a lot of the pushback will be on agencies that have legislative backing, and also have maybe some significant funding to their name. Because if an agency doesn't have significant capital projects, the political capital might be not significant. But by the time you see an agency that has a lot of money, a lot of projects within, and that's when you begin to now use that opportunity to lobby the National Assembly. And I think the president has to use his own political capital with his leadership of the Senate and the House of Reps to stand his ground that these things must happen. Because because I don't think he has gone for the hardest things. He has not gone for the pilgrimage. He has not gone for the EFCC and ICPC. He has not gone for the agencies. I think that huge significance. The big points I see that I like more is the BPP, merging the BPE, the Block Public Enterprises, and the ICRC, which is very, very responsible. I think the NIPC and NEPC, why we putting our investment and our export in a separate position, could as well make that just one institution and one agency. So those are the ones I feel like, yes, to some extent, the government made sense. And those were the ones I think there will be pushback significantly from huge agencies. Yeah. We
have to wrap up with you, but I think I have to ask you this question, your own personal opinion. The president recently constituted a committee, Economic Advisory Committee, made up of the best influencers, the capitalists, the economists. We have Bismarck Rewane, we have Tolien Lumelu, the whole works. Everybody is there to support the Minister of Finance. What can we do to save this naira, to save the economy from what it is right now? Because Nigerians, even today, NLC is protesting, Nigerians protested across the nation yesterday. In your view, I mean, I'd like to hear your own personal opinion. Do you think we're on the right track to get Nigeria stable again economically?
I felt some decisions were rushed. We didn't map out the scenarios about what are the effect of some certain decisions. And I think we have not gone too far. And I think even you could see that there's a bit of drawback. I mean, there are now huge rules against BDC. They are now, because it's clear that we don't have an infinite supply of dollars. So you can't leave the entire process open-ended. There should be some regulations, some stop breaks, and to make sure that we behave in a much more rational way. Because if you leave the system open-ended, you are going to just be compounding the greed of people within those environments. So I feel some certain decisions were rushed, and they were not. The government didn't map out the scenario properly about what are the effects. But what they have done is recently. I mean, I think it would salvage, it would improve the process, but there's still a lot of more work to do. We talked about fiscal tightening. That has to happen. So we talk about optimization of production. There's no reason why we are producing 1.4, 1.5 million barrels per day. We need to go the full length of what we can produce, because that's where we are going to get the dollars to be able to act. CBN is able to bring some stability to that market. Our non-oil exports, this is where the government should find a champion inside the government, even right inside the presidency, to lead on that effort. How do we encourage? Because the dollar currency is weak now, so it's supposed to encourage exports. This is the time for us to, and you can see some certain food exports are happening already. Even though you can't call them exports, you could label them as smuggling in some way to the neighboring countries, because our currency is even weaker than the CFA at this point. So there has to be some huge conversation on how do we drive non-oil export. And about the committee that was set up, I like it, but I think it should be more technical than that. I think it's too business people oriented in some sort of way. But I wanted to see more Bismarck Rewane. But I think when you say an economic advisory council, what the presidency actually needs is sound technical advice, in some sort of way. More economists, more public policy think tanks, more people who could dimension the economy and let the president know. For every decision you're about to make, or for everything you're about to do about subsidy, about floating the currency, these are what's going to be the recurrent implications of it. And this is how you can face it, so that the social cost of those policies are not too high.
Okay.
In some sort of, because, but I believe that maybe the president feels that he needs to bring the business community more closer. He has done that, but I believe he should expand that committee and bring more technical people in, who can also give him some solid advice.
Thank you so much. We'll be speaking with the entrepreneur, open data analyst, Oluseun Onigbende. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
We're going to go on a break now. When we come back, we go on to the final segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. Last week, we discussed how many businesses and others might be losing over 100 billion naira monthly as containers and petrol tankers continue to stay permanently on Apapa roads and its environs, where Tinkan Island and Apapa port factories are. Joining us on the show now is the chairman of Amalgamation of Container Truck Owners Association of Nigeria, Actuan, Mr. Ridwan Bello. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on the show.
You already look very distressed based on what's going on. I can tell from your body language that all is not well in that area. So give us, help us itemize exactly what the issues are concerned. We've talked about this several times, but what's going on right now with the gridlock going on in Apapa?
Okay, so I think maybe I should just quickly run on the background as to how we got here. So back in the 1990s, we had the emergence of tank farms being built within the Apapa environs. And we had more container-laden trucks as well as the port. There was a port concessionaire system whereby they put up about 9 companies to take over the port, agencies. By 2018, there was a major construction, rebuilding of the Apapa access road, and that is where the main problem started from, where we have regulatory agencies, security agencies mounting checkpoints. And we have the miscreants also, all over the place. And there was also, an improvement by the MPA, where they came up with the e-collop system.
Yeah.
And as we have it, the problem is still persistent. And it's only in Nigeria where I saw that technological solution that is meant to bring ease is not even bringing the ease. So it's so unfortunate as we have it. The perennial gridlock is still there.
Sadly, there was a news last week, and I doubted it. You, as an operator on that end, can you confirm the 100 million weekly?
Billion
Weekly loss. That was said, I think it was in the Vanguard, that, I'm not sure whether Vanguard, but it was in the papers that, where the projected loss businesses were incurring on that end of the road. Can you confirm? And how is that being addressed as an economic issue?
Yes, it's a big issue. And I'm surprised that the relevant authorities are not taking major steps, to curb the problem. As we speak, we have export-leading trucks all over the place. They can't have access into the port.
I'm sorry, let me pause you for a second. I'll come back to UBC. I'll not even break down. I'll come back to the breakdown. What she said concerning, I know we always talk about Nigeria, we want a magic wand. You said here now they've done the e-collop system. So government has done something. They've tried, I know the governor was there, I know the minister, even the former president at some point came to that area sometime doing his own administration. So government has tried to do something. It's not as if nothing has been tried. However, our last guest said something about you can add technology the best you want, but if culture, if the people, the human beings refuse to adhere or use the technology, we're not anywhere. So let me rephrase the question is, what are we doing, or governments, whoever it is, to help reorientate the truck drivers, those on ground, to adhere to the e-collop system? What is being done to ensure, to enforce their implementation of those things?
So I think the major problem is sincerity of purpose.
Okay.
Whereby you lay down rules that are almost impossible.
Okay.
The e-collop system, the only built process. Yes, the build process. I keep saying it everywhere. The build process where you go from a transit park, from a satellite park to a transit park before you now head to the port. What we have now is that those system is not even working, because how we used to have it in the port, there is a very big space for trucks to park. But since these concessionaires took over, those space for truck park are being converted to where cargoes are being dumped. And they are just using it to maximize profit. So, like you said, the culture, why don't we bring back the culture as it were, whereby we build infrastructures, build truck parks. I will tell you, within Tinkan environs, we have over 28 checkpoints being mounted by non-state actors, even state actors. And between you and I, if each checkpoint take about 2,000 naira per truck, and we have 1,000 trucks in 20 days, these people are making illegal money to the tune of 1.1 billion in a month. If this resources is harnessed to build like a truck Michelin yard, a proper trucking park that can take about 500 to 1,000 capacity of trucks, we won't be talking about
I thought we have a park, but it's not. A park was
It chose
built,
not to use it.
Yes, it wasn't built close to where they want to be. It was supposed to be built away from the port, and then the call-up system will pick you up from there, and only those that have been called will get to go to the place. I have heard so much about this illegal checkpoints
yes,
that is making money. And when I did a course on conflict resolution about 6-7 years ago, one of the things they say is whenever you want to resolve a conflict, you need to find those that are benefiting from that conflict. So we have a group of people who have built an industry out of this crisis, and they would do everything not to make it work.
Yes.
And do you believe that it's the government that will solve it, or the people taking ownership? Because I don't think government alone can do anything in this space. They've tried. How do you believe that we can solve the issue to dissuade those people who are benefiting from this crisis to see the advantage of making it work?
Okay, so let me use this opportunity to thank the Lagos State Governor, the Deputy, and also the Police Command in Lagos State. We have, sensitized our drivers as to being obedient as to what the government wants. There has to be some sort of collaboration. We are the major stakeholders.
Exactly.
We know where the shoe pinches. And we engage MPA almost every time. But that's where it takes us back to sincerity of purpose. If we tell them this is how it can work, this is what they should do, they end up doing something else. And assault, we have some assaulting policies. Every time. I have suggested that why do we need to have checkpoints? I know in Sambisa Forest. Look at the tsunami of area boys in Lagos State, everywhere. You see them holding stick, Owomida, all the time. Why don't we, reshape how things work? We don't need those officers on the road. Let's make them mobile. They will be in their vehicle, moving around the port axis. If they see any truck, parked illegally, Mr. Man, what are you doing here? You need to move out. Instead of, building camps on the road, the access road to the port.
If they can also move, that means that there will be no stagnancy.
Yes.
Also, I'm aware.
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
So, some persons have said that one of the issues we're still having in those port areas is because there are a lot of tank farms that are situated there. So it's also one of the major reasons why they are there. And I think some of them do not even have parking bays for their trucks. So every truck is parked on the road. Now, are you engaging with the tank farms to see how they can build their own parks for their trucks? Are you engaging with them in such a way that they understand that they are part of the problem? And are there any policies that would also sanction them for causing such that you have, come in contact with?
Okay, so as the saying goes, where you have sugar is where the ants will flock around. So because we have the tank farm within Apapa and its environment doesn't mean we cannot manage the traffic situation. But most of these oil marketers, they have their parking space, they have their parking lot. At least I know a couple that would even extend, their willingness to some truck park owners. Why don't you give us a certain space? So when the inside of our park is full, we can use yours as holding bay. Those are people that are ready to work. But again, it's not only by that. We need government intervention. couple of times that we visit the former special advisor to the governor, I have reiterated this. There is no way you want to manage traffic within Apapa without having ultra-modern truck park. It's not rocket science. We need the spaces are there.
Remember one of the governors, that Fashola, was saying that we have parks that can accommodate 3,000 trucks. They were saying it's not being used. Is there a reason why it's not being used? There's a park. Government say they have parks available.
So this thing works in a dynamic way.
Okay.
Now let me explain it. And why Tinkan is still stagnant as it is. What we have in Apapa, we have the Lily Pond Truck Park, which can accommodate about 1,500 trucks, if properly managed. Now, the Lily Pond Park is like 4 or 5 kilometers away from the port. But what we have in Tinkan is the transit park, which they build, is just opposite the port. So tell me, if these trucks are coming from, let's say, Mile 2, for example, to get to the transit park, they will still cause that same gridlock we are trying to take away. And that's why Apapa is there is a bit of sanity in Apapa compared to Tinkan. And what I have advised is that why don't we reshape what we have in Apapa like Tinkan? Why don't we have a quasi-transit park, maybe close to Mile 2?
What about the ones in Amu, those transit parks in Amu? I can't remember their names that are used as waiting points.
Yeah, holding bay for trucks.
Bays, yes. What about them?
They are not big enough. That's why we need government intervention. It's Lagos State government that can say, okay, you know what, this land...
Let me come back to your people.
Okay.
Because it's easy to point fingers at the government, but the drivers are also part of the problem.
Yeah.
The drivers, because I grew up in Amu Odofin, like you guys have I've relocated my parents from their house. And it's because of this issue, because I can't visit them. You are going into, because drivers want to do their business.
Quick business.
They will block the entire road. The entire road is blocked. And these are Nigerians, human beings. So you can complain that, they have created roadblocks. There's no road. But it is common sense that you will see a community, a full estate, and you will see trailers. They will block the three lanes, trailers packed.
As you're talking, I'm remembering something.
And I'm wondering, is the governor that will come and tell people to leave the road or queue up?
As you're talking, I'm remembering something, because Governor, somebody was saying that, TUC was saying that we should import food. Right? Because for this situation, I think we need to import drivers from Ghana. We need to, you can actually import drivers temporarily, because sometimes you need a shift.
So they can see what can be done.
You need a shift, because these people don't get it. And that's what the former guest said. Culture doesn't switch. You need to import people from, you can even import Indians, import Chinese. To handle the trucks.
Or even Cotonou people.
Bring them. When you bring somebody new, maybe Nigerians can see how it's done properly.
But you need to answer that question.
I need to answer that question. I think it's I want you to answer.
Let me shock you.
Please, wait, why?
So there are certain bodies that are beyond, mediating with.
Okay.
For instance, NUPENG, I am aware, would not listen. When government says NUPENG can threaten to strike, and we know what the implications are, there will be no fuel. What are you doing as an association to interface with them, aside what government does?
Interface with?
NUPENG, the truck, oil, whatever. Operators, national, whatever.
So, so how it works, what we do, we are more into dry cargos. NUPENG is wet cargo, and their parent body is NATO. You understand? And we have, good relationship with NATO as well. We've had so many fruitful discussions. As it is affecting us, it's also affecting them.
But they're the ones always occupying.
Not them alone.
No, it's
the
not.
Mile 2 one is the combination, the wet one and the dry one, blocking the road.
That's why I said, let me shock you people.
Oh yeah, shock us.
90% of what you see along that axis is caused by area boys. 90%, yes.
How?
Now, go along Maza Maza. Badagry Expressway. They would stop the drivers. If you don't give them, these guys, this money, they will not allow you to go.
Leave you there.
In fact, they have caused so many casualties. I mean, we have our gallant officers that died.
So the driver is not the problem. It's the area boys in that period.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Part of the problem.
They are part
that's
of the
the
problem.
problem.
We continually sensitize them that these last mile officers, these FRSC, they are there to make life easy for you. When you see them, obey them.
Mr. Bello, you are not taking responsibility.
let me
You did
even
not say
add
our
it.
drivers need help, we should train them. You just keep blaming them on blaming Agbero. No, but the parking, what I've seen is not just Agbero. Agbero might be compounding it, but they are encouraged by the drivers who are looking for how to get out of the way. So you see a queue, then because they are, a motorboy has already seen Agbero that he is going to bribe. He would overtake, he would leave the queue to go. And in that midst of him trying to leave the queue to move, the only lane that is available for private vehicles to pass has now been blocked. Others will protest along the way. So how, if we don't take responsibility, we don't solve the problem. So I feel like maybe maybe you can suggest a training for both NATO drivers and your own container drivers.
Can I add a little to that? Okay. So I don't think it's about training. I think the drivers are just greedy. They know what they are doing. Yeah. One of the reasons they park on the road is sometimes they don't even get the jobs. They are taking space, waiting till somebody calls them for the job. And that's what he said initially, that if the government gets involved, where they get people to check the drivers and ask them what they are doing on the road, you find illegal trucks that have no business, they have no cargo, they've not collected anything. They're just parked there, taking up space, waiting till somebody calls them before they start moving.
So they don't have to move
so that they can
far.
shut it. Exactly.
Still,
so that's where the major problem is.
It still boils down to sincerity of purpose. When ETO started, the e-collop system, when it started, you dare not see any driver on the bridge. Because the government said, if we find you, we will arrest you and we will do something that will make you lose your job. So if the government is really serious, I mean, we engage our drivers. For me, I tell my drivers, you don't have anything. You don't have anything doing on the road. So we use the truck park. But again, if you don't create an enabling environment, let's be realistic here. It doesn't take MPA anything to tell these terminal operators. As I'm speaking to you, APMT, which controls almost the larger chunk of dry cargoes within Apapa, has only 60 space for truck, and they control about, the last figure I got, about 880 trucks per day.
Wow.
How do you do the throughput? How does it matter?
Doesn't matter.
Do you get?
Also, I would like to talk about the bonded terminals.
Yes.
The ones on the Old Ojo Road, and their operations can kill somebody. You can be sitting in traffic because of them, but then I see the partnership, I see the problem with the area boys. I see that. I'm just wondering how the possible collaboration, because I know the bonded terminals exist, but the area boys also serve them in the sense that they control the trucks into the terminals and out of the terminals. And I believe that they are working together.
No.
I'm saying that I believe that they are working together. Usually you see the truck, if they don't pay, they remain on the road, the border terminals do nothing. So we've had some terminals who have involved police partnership and they've been seamless. And then we see the ones that don't have that and they just continue to cause hardship for the people. How are you talking to these border terminal operators to see ease? So
how it used to work before was when a vessel is coming in, it's called transfer or transire. So some importers will say, I don't want my container to be stepped down in the port. Take it to bonded terminals. And that's why we also need to be more creative. When all the containers are being released from Tinkan and Apapa, why are the bonded terminals redundant?
They are not, they are working.
Yeah, but how it used to be was that they can step a whole vessel to a bonded terminals. So you don't have the influx of trucks going to the port. Now, I have suggested to the state government, criminalize the activities of these area boys. Once they know that they don't have anything doing on that road, there will be some sort of sanity whereby area boys is not involved.
Take them
truck.
out.
And it's not only truck alone. If you have little issue with your car,
yes,
you will see them, they will approach you. And we have it on video where area boys, they will follow some of this truck. They will remove, some of the connecting cables. They know that by the time you drive 5 minutes away and they will stop, they will say, you dare not touch it. They have injured, killed some of our drivers. We have pictures. You dare not touch, except you give them 150,000, 200,000.
So what should we do concerning the area boys?
Yes, who are you speaking?
Our prisons are full.
Criminalize.
Our prisons are very full.
There's no space for them. So sometimes when you put up this, this condition that if you are caught doing this, it's just for them to deter. Not like we actually want to jail them. But because anybody can do anyhow.
I want us to be realistic.
Okay.
These ones, there's no way they can be deterred because they are used to collecting that money. They've industrialized that entire thing. So it's not about, don't do it, give them one, they won't listen. There's some drastic measures that might be undemocratic to take, but the idea really is, what can we do that be firm enough to get these guys to stop? These are recommendations that have to give to government.
I just did a small math now that just within Tinkan alone, they generate about 1 billion.
Do you think that money is not going to some other powers?
Yeah, of course. That's why they are there. That's why
there are non-political actors or political actors who are also benefiting from
benefiting directly or indirectly. That's hard fact. But if the governor today says...
Now you are talking in English, you want to talk. Say now I get it.
No, let's lamole.
Everything. If the governor really wants to take care of this boy, to me, it's simple solution to complex problem. Very simple. They have some of them picked up recently. The first day they did operation, they picked about, along Badagry Expressway, they picked about 55 area boys collecting money with impunity. They even wore vests. 55. And guess what? After some time, they release them.
All of them.
And they are back on the road.
I told you there's no space in the car. I already told you that.
It's not that. Sometimes they say that the people you know, there are some boys you cannot carry because they can call and the person that sends them to the streets will release them. So that is also part of the problem that the government needs to acknowledge. And if you keep on going there and doing, we will have 1 week review, which is what we've been having. Nima will come and say, oh, it's been better for this week. Then next week she'll say, it's not good again.
But the reason I keep saying there's no space is that when you wrap, it's not only that area. There are area boys across the state.
Yes, across.
They're everywhere.
The Ojota ones too are there.
So how many can you round up and put in the prison? So there has to be something beyond ground level and put them in the prison. We have to actually have proper reforms.
I think there should be proper separation.
NUWRT. We need to negotiate.
Let me tell you, the governor, the deputy governor, called us to a meeting with their boss, NURTW, Ritian. They said they don't know anything about it.
So some of these boys, that's what I wanted to say. Can we have, if they must, have a body separate from the NURT controlling the areas affected? Why am I saying this? The port is specific. It's a special area.
Yes.
I have been to a meeting before at the Ministry for Energy, and I was told, until if your clamor is that there should be no tank farm in Lagos, it's not going to happen. So you people must coexist. How can we practically coexist if I'm taking my kids from Satellite Town School just to cross a 10 minutes drive home and I'm there for 8 hours? How is that possible? Because we have been playing lip service to the one in Satellite Town, Aja will experience it very soon. They are coming there. The old Bedruleki, no matter how you're expanding the road, we do not have a framework that has worked for where this problem has shown up somewhere else. And when you move to do the same thing elsewhere, you move the problem. So what else exactly can we do as a police, a form of police, to engage these boys, reform them, and have them operate within the laws of your that you can control?
So one of the things the states with the special advisor to the governor did was to, inaugurate the Lagos State Truck and Cargo Committee. And this committee is saddled with making sure there is sanity for maritime haulage operators. And we are also talking. I mean, we've gone on the peace talk with people we know that control some of these boys. We can engage you people. Truckers, Lara. While you can feed your family, doing the right thing, making sure that, oh, this truck, you're not supposed to be here. You can go there. But my fear is, how do you curb somebody that is earning 1 billion in 1 month? And you say you want to be giving the person 1 million. Does it work? So there has to be...
The ain't no as fair.
Yes, there has to be this armor from the government. I mean...
It has to be stronger.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think also, hopefully, if this recommendation by the review they have in the constitutional review, where state policing is becoming a reality, hopefully, maybe these boys can now be engaged as police officers. Because we need more police. Really, we need more policing. So you equip them, you train them, you give them the power to begin to bring sanity.
Their business is to clear the traffic.
Yeah,
Instead of them
so you make them,
Exactly.
So hopefully that happens. We might be
attacking the drivers, you know, they just control traffic and you earn money.
You earn good money. Okay,
You know.
I think we can wrap up on that.
Okay,
Any final words to the various stakeholders, since you have the few minutes?
So from the information I've gotten here, on behalf of all truckers, you know, within and the people staying in Apapa, you know, we are sorry that these problems are there. But also our hands are tied because we also want to, you know, do our business and make sure we don't run at loss, especially as we see the cost of operating this type of business is really, really on the high side. So we will continually engage our drivers to make sure they are of best behavior and reduce traffic. But we also want to beg the government, engage with the stakeholders. You cannot bring somebody that doesn't know how it works to come and bring solution.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you for having me.
Ridwan Bello for joining us today.
Thank you.
That is all we can take on today's show. Hope you learned a few things as we have. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.